So if you clicked on this video, you're probably not the happiest gardener right now because deer keep eating your beautiful plants. And I know this can be a very frustrating problem, which is why I'm making this video, because over the years I have found some pretty clever ways to utilize simple netting to alleviate this problem. And I'm going to show you guys three main methods I employ to effectively use this stuff. And this is called Deer X. It's made by a company named Dahlen. I'm really not sure how to say it, but I'll put a link in the description to where you can purchase this stuff. It's really good stuff, but you know, it's a bit intimidating right out of the package because it's just this messy, well, it's not messy, but it's just this cluster, this huge, dense, folded up ball of plastic netting. And we also want to be, given that it's plastic, want to be as environmentally conscious as we can about it and utilize every last bit of it and use it year after year. It's not something that just goes bad as long as you're smart with it. So yeah, this can be a bit intimidating to deal with at first, but hopefully I can help you guys out and showing you guys some interesting ways to use this stuff. Should start by mentioning that scissors are going to be your best friend here. Any pair of scissors, you know, kitchen scissors, paper scissors, anything you can use to cut this stuff with, you're going to need that because this is a massive piece. I think it's like 50 by 70 feet. It's huge. Well, not anymore because I've used quite a bit of it, but you can see how much of it there is. So you're going to need some scissors to cut it. All these methods are going to involve, you know, cutting a section of this stuff to use, you know, in whatever part of your garden you're protecting. So the first method is quite obvious, and that's just a simple covering where the plants provide their own support for the netting. There's no additional structure that is erected or any kind of additional support. You just simply cover the plants with your piece of netting after you've cut it out and, you know, measured it if you want to. But the main tip to this is this method, since it's pretty simple, and this kind of goes for all the methods I'm going to mention here, is you want to find a place to neatly fold up the netting and store it when you're not using it, because this is something you really only need to do at nighttime when the deer come out and feed. And I know this is really only a problem for us mainly in like the Midwest and Northeast and forested areas, like suburb areas. But you always want to weigh the netting down because it can blow away. So as you can see there, I have it folded up in the corner with this little pot on it during the day. It stops it from blowing away. But yeah, I'm going to show you guys what this simple covering looks like. Might be a little tough because it's a little windy right now, but yeah, this method's pretty straightforward. Just have a big enough piece to cover your plants. In this case, sunflowers, because deer love to attack sunflowers. So I'm gonna throw the netting over this. And so this is what it looks like. As you can see, the plants, they do a pretty good job of supporting this stuff on their own. And, you know, in the case of sunflowers, it actually holds onto them pretty well. If it's really windy at night though, you might want to find something nearby that you can just like hook it onto. Like this fence, for example, has these really sharp hinges that I just kind of will hook the netting onto, and you know, it catches it really well and will usually stop it from blowing away. If it does blow off of your plants, it will at least stop it from blowing away into the surrounding wilderness. But yeah, there's really nothing much to this other than tossing it over. This sunflower is tall enough to kind of be safe on its own, but I still used it to like hook the netting a little bit, and it drapes all the way down to the ground, protecting the main growth crowns of all the plants. So the second method I'm going to show you guys is a bit more involved, but ultimately more effective. And that is utilizing the structures, any kind of structure, be it a house, a deck, anything around your plants that they happen to be growing near, to help support this netting and keep it secure. And it also really helps with when you have to deal with a larger piece of netting. So in this example, I have this row of sunflowers here. It's not really a complete row yet. Some of them are really tiny, growing alongside of my house. And this is a rather long row. It's maybe like 20 feet or so. So I could use just a simple covering for them, but ultimately I decided to take advantage of this surrounding architecture and develop something a bit more secure. So these are just simple command hooks that I actually gorilla glued, like super glued to the siding of my house. Understandable if you don't want to do this, but ultimately it's going to be more effective for keeping your netting secure. And these really aren't noticeable. I mean, I'm zooming in on them right now, but really you can hardly see them. And these do hold if you use some additional glue. I mean, these have been here since last year and they're still holding strong. So what I'm gonna do is I have my piece right there, again, weighed down by a rock, something or anything to kind of stop it from blowing away. I'm gonna unravel it and actually hook it to each hook, and it's gonna drape over everything in this row. I'm gonna attempt to mount my camera up and actually show you guys this process. So here's the final product, a complete draping of the entire row, well, almost the entire row. It's still not quite big enough of a piece. I have these down here that it couldn't reach. I'm gonna have to do a separate piece for those when they get bigger. But yeah, it hooks onto every hook down the line, completely drapes around each plant. We're still not quite done yet. Even though it is hooked on, it could still blow up and blow away. There's a chance of it at least. So I weigh it down at the bottom with some rocks, just like that. And again, I'm gonna repeat this. I know I mentioned it at the beginning, but this is something I only do at night. I'm doing it during the day for demonstration purposes, but this is my nightly routine as soon as the sun sets, and then I take it down in the morning when the sun comes up. So the third and final method I'm gonna show is really useful when it comes to standalone plants or just very small plots that just have a couple of plants. In this case, again, I'm growing sunflowers here. I could grow one flower here or a small cluster. But anyway, so since there's nothing really like surrounding this area that I can use, such as the side of my house or anything like that, and I want to protect these plants from the moment they sprout, because birds often will peck them out of the soil too, as well as deer and rabbits and whatnot. So you can use pretty much anything that resembles a stake. Like I have these actual plastic stakes, but you could just use little twigs, and I just stick them in the ground in a around the circumference of the plot, really. I mean, it's not much more complicated than that. And then I'll have my piece of netting that I cut out, and I will just drape it over these stakes and then weigh it down with some rocks in between them so nothing can crawl under. And you can just leave it like that until the plants get to this height. And really, you can make these stakes huge too. You could use huge pieces of wood if you want and use a big piece and leave it that way for even longer. However, I've determined over the years of doing this that when they're about 6 inches tall, which is about how high these stakes are, they can support the netting on their own. You can cut the top out of this and then continue to use a bigger piece as the plant grows through the top. But until your plants get to that size, this should be a reliable way to just leave as is for about 2 weeks, depending on how fast whatever you're growing grows. So that's really it. I mean, it's nothing too complicated, but when you first open that package of netting, it can be kind of intimidating. Like, what the heck do I do with this stuff? So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please comment any ways you've discovered to use this netting that I may not have mentioned in this video. Take care.